So hello everybody, this is Bante Joe here, and I'm just here at the Pilikutua / Yongamula forest, and have come out here for now a few weeks or a month, and it's a lovely place to be. And so I thought to record a short Ovāda for the internet, and so I thought that could start with just a little bit of meditation, so can lean forward a bit and arch the spine, and can look about 3 feet in front, and close our eyes. And can focus in on the breath. Can know when it's coming in and know when it's going out. If we breathe in a long breath, can just know I'm breathing in a long breath. And if we breathe in a short breath, can just know I'm breathing in a short breath. And can focus in on the breath at the tip of the nose. And when focusing on the breath at the tip of the nose, it can be good to make mindfulness as continuous as possible, being aware all the way through the in-breath. As the in-breath turns to the out-breath, all the way through the out-breath, and as the out-breath turns back to the in-breath again. Trying to keep mindfulness as continuous as possible. And can just pose the question in the mind, what would be a really comfortable way to breathe right now? And then one can just let one's body respond on its own. And if the mind wanders off to the past or the future, can bring it back to the present moment, to the breath. And before we finish meditating, can spread thoughts of goodwill, wishing may all beings all around everywhere be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make the mind infinite, can make it unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond. In every dimension, may all beings all around everywhere be happy and at ease. And can open our eyes and do a short Ovāda for the internet. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. So I hope that everybody's keeping well wherever it might be. And it's been nice to be out here in the wilderness at the in this Yakala area here. It's kind of a little bit of a bowl, and so sound doesn't. It's kind of a little bit of a ring of hills and mountains, and in the center of this bowl here, which is kind of roughly, it's down there, but I'm on the inward slope. There's much less sound. So when I first came here and started looking around, was kind of looking for a place potentially where it'd be possible to build a kuti, possibly stay in the forest in a kuti. Before Vasa, a gentleman had invited me to come here and stay for a little while anyway, and to build a kuti. So not knowing how these things work in Sri Lanka, I just came and kind of started staying in the forest and looking for potential places that would be good to stay. Kind of up here, there's actually the ruins of an old house that was used for a while, but nothing much. It's kind of in the forest. It was made of mud, and back here there's nothing. So a senior monk actually came, and he recommended. He said, when you look for a place to build a kuti, you have to look for a place where more or less the kind of energy is good, the vibe is good. There's kind of all these conditions that come together for making a place a good place to practice, making a place a good place to stay. It was one of the highest blessings in the Mangala Sutta is if one can live in places of suitable kinds, live in places that are suitable for one, for the cultivation of one's practice. So I remember when I first came to Buddhism, and even later on, more or less I more or less had this idea, well, the amount of time that you put in meditating is the most important, and this is probably true. And so not giving so much attention to the places I was. It was kind of, good enough. The place is good enough. Actually, this attitude is not generally a bad attitude. But there's actually refinements that one can do on the search for a place where one is going to stay, where one is going to practice meditation, especially if this is something where one will be staying long term. Maybe the main place one will stay for a year or 2 years or even 6 months. So there's a couple tips that the senior monk gave, which were really excellent. In addition to the place should have like a good feel or a good vibe, good energy. It should be, when one constructs one's dwelling, one should construct it east, so it faces east. And one should construct a walking meditation path so that the walking meditation path, the direction of it is east-west. And these are seen as things that just energetically are helpful. And these kind of small things that build up over time. So there is this kind of balancing factor that one needs to have, and that the main thing is basically one cannot control all the time where one is going to be able to stay. Actually, still not 100% sure, and don't know if we'll be able to build a kuti here or not build a kuti. The local officials seem happy, but there's all these procedures. We'll just have to see. But wherever one is, one can have this attitude of, more or less this general attitude of, there's a certain amount of time that I'm going to put into this activity regardless of where I am. And this is something that helps to make one's practice constant. But on top of that, one can learn to tweak the little individual elements in the area one is in to make one's practice more suitable, to make it more appropriate. It's interesting that one might find that even in the general vicinity of an area, and actually when the senior monk said this, it was really good advice, even in the general vicinity of an area, sometimes maybe just 30 or 40 meters away, the feeling of the place is much different. The vibe is much different. Even the amount of sound that comes to that place may be much different. So for example, just in the forest past here, there's a ridge. This area has a ridge that goes down, and then, as I mentioned, there's this bowl. And if you just go a little bit further up on top of the ridge, then there's much more noise. And then when one comes down here too, I don't think it's visible on the video, but right here is actually a chaitya, which may or may not be a little bit ancient, may or may not be quite old. And so there's this beautiful reminder of the Buddha and his great disciples. And also in and around chaityas, just the vibe may be a nice vibe. So one, in addition to wherever one is, one can search out these kind of slightly better areas. If one cannot control the area entirely, then one can search out these little ways to tweak the environment to make it a more suitable place to practice. And this can be compared to like tuning in a radio. I don't even know if radios, you have to do this anymore. When I was young, you had to tune the radio with this little knob. I think probably now you go up by decimal points or so to try to find the frequency where the sound is most clear, where it's best. I mean, it may all hover around, say, like FM 97 or something like this. There might be a station there, but within that 5 or 6 decimal points, it may be more or less clear. So wherever one is in one's environment, whether it's in one's home, whether it's in a monastery, whether one is practicing in the forest, there's almost always little things that one can do to make the environment more suitable, to make the place more suitable. One of these elements that one can look to is actually the comfort of a place. So if one is susceptible to cold and one stays in a very cold, damp area of one's house, or a very cold, damp kuti, or a very cold, damp area of the forest, then this won't be suitable. One should go to a place where there's more sunshine, it's drier, and one can pay close attention to the effect this has on one's mind. Also, one thing that's universal in looking for a suitable place to practice is that it should be a place with little noise. I remember when I was first starting out, I used to go on these Zen retreats, and the shrine room was located on the second floor of a 3 or 4 story building in close to a very busy intersection in Toronto. And right outside of the meditation hall was this parking lot, and people would be getting into arguments and and these kind of things. So there would be these retreats that would happen over the course of, in the summertime, that would happen for 5 days. They were really wonderful. And I remember one time, for some reason or another, it wasn't possible to meditate in this upper shrine room. We had to go meditate in the basement. And if one changes from an upper shrine room to a basement, one may find that all of a sudden it's much easier to meditate. The pains that one feels in one's legs are much less, and one may just find it easier to focus in on one's meditation topic. So a small move like this from an area which is noisier to an area which is less noisy. Usually the areas that are enclosed are less noisy, or area that, say, faces a forest will be less noisy, can be something that is helpful to tweaking these boundaries around one's meditation practice over time. Then also, in addition to, say, like temperature or hot and cold, the kind of vibe and these various things, it's also good to be in a place that one's mind more or less feels attracted to, that one tends to like. So myself, I tend to like having the ability to look out over long distances. That's something that I find comfortable. Other people like very closed-in areas. That's something that they find comfortable. So wherever it is that one's mind kind of inclines to being there, it seems like something that's comfortable to one, in addition to, say, something like the temperature, that the environment itself and these little things like the way that one looks is something that one can help with. So these are things that won't necessarily have a big bang effect over time in 1 or 2 sessions. But it's the kind of thing that one searches out a place like this and then establishes either a dwelling or a meditation room, or even like a temporary shelter where one goes to the day consistently and practices there. This is something that has a beneficial effect that's cumulative, that can be cumulative over time. Like somebody, they have this phrase, the wind at one's back. One can walk, one can make progress with the wind in one's face, but it's much better to try to find a way that one can raise one's sails and have the wind push one along. So there is this kind of very high blessing that the Buddha gives, this blessing of staying in places of suitable kinds. And it's not necessarily always the case that we can totally choose. Maybe some people would like to practice in country X, maybe go to the Himalayas and stay on top of a mountain there and practice in a cave there. But it might not be possible, given the circumstances that one finds one's in, even as a monk or a lay person, whatever it may be. There may just not be enough food there. One may have other commitments. It might not be possible to do. So in the shorter term, wherever one is, one can try to find these ways to make one's environment better for meditation, to try to find a space that's better for meditation, that's suitable for meditation. And of course, if one is a monk, over the long term, one tends to have much greater capacity to choose to live wherever one wants. But wherever it is that one is, one can try to tweak these elements to make the place a suitable place to stay, a suitable place to practice. And this is one of the highest blessings.